What are your concerns about another Trump presidency?
Well, he represents a serious threat to the rule of law.
Comey's a traitor, throw his ass in jail. Things done in secret, exposed in detail. Lots of criminal traitors as they scramble, preying Americans are sleeping on that bright. Lady Justice gonna drop the hammer, law and order restored, gonna make it right. Obama treason must pay for his crimes. Americans were damaged, patriots maligned. Hillary must pay for her crimes, selling America out, unending lies. Obama's a traitor, throw his ass in jail. Things done in secret, exposed in detail. We see it, we gotcha.
Ooh, that's not right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Newman, aka Good Lawgic. I gave an extended good there. That was intentional because my objective is to see whether or not you guys can let me know. Please confirm that my audio is crystal clear. That's what I'm looking for. If you were not here last night, you missed what was very, very frustrating. And what I've since learned has happened to several YouTube streamers. I think Robert Gouveia had some audio issues as well. And apparently multiple people were struggling with StreamYard yesterday, that their audio was just very, very, what they call rugging, kind of like scraping across a rug kind of thing. Audio is good. Audio is great. Beautiful. Oh, I am so, landscape is awesome. I didn't put it in, I didn't put YouTube portrait tonight. I didn't do that. And even I'm seeing here that these are my ghetto folk are telling me that it's working well also. All right, if you can give a thumbs up for the good, a little thumbs up, hit the like button because huzzah. It seems like our audio is crystal clear. I was really depressed last night. I'm not going to kid you. I was just like, this is a problem. This is a serious problem because bad audio is just something that no one's going to listen to that. I got to draw you away from like bowling night or like whatever's playing on the Oxygen channel. So you're not watching that, you're here instead, right? I mean, Lord knows the Oxygen channel is like, that's like your next go-to after Good Lawgic. And I have to keep you I have to keep you away from A&E. I don't know what's on A&E, and if it's all like that's not going to work. It's not going to work. I know it. I wouldn't listen to it. I'd be like, oh my God, give me the Discovery Channel, please. Thank you. That's the goal. My stream doesn't suck tonight. Thank you. That's really the yardstick I have. Just don't suck. Be okay. Be all right. Be okay. That's really my objective tonight. Okay, so I have a goal up tonight, because I usually have a goal. So my goal tonight again is our regular goal of 15 yellow or more super chats. If we do that, I will give you an added hour tonight. That's how hard an added hour I'm going to be covering SCOTUS's oral argument, which is something I was supposed to be doing the other day. I was going to have a stream on that, and then that I had audio problems with. I had all sorts of issues with. I thought it was my problem, and I'm starting to think it wasn't. And yeah, so that's, I will give you an added hour if we get there. And yeah, or if we get there with like the 15 super chats, or like, I guess if we hit a total of 250 without that, I'll do that also. there's no alternative. There would, if I had an or on the goal, I would do that. I would do that. But anyway, that's our goal for tonight. The main thing tonight, which I plan on going over with you, is this story with Elijhah Schaffer, who's being sued for defamation by Kash Patel's girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins. Now, Kash Patel's girlfriend has filed this lawsuit. He made a 15-minute, really like clapback at both Wilkins and Kash Patel and the government, and pretty much grifting. I mean, I don't know if grifting is the right word, but pushing his audience to give him financial support. And then there's also all this talk about urging Elon to help cover his legal bills, claiming that his free speech is being attacked because he's attacking the state of Israel. And that his free speech is from Elijah's perspective, his free speech is under attack. And he's hoping that Elon, who has said that he will help legally defend those whose free speech is under attack, or wrongly attacked, that Elon will just say, okay, I got your legal fees here. That's clearly a major part of what Elijah is seeking here. You might love Elijah Schaffer, you might hate Elijah Schaffer. I'm going to try and approach the legitimacy of this lawsuit as much as possible from not what or who Elijah is or represents, even though that's going to play in a little bit. We're going to see in the complaint, because we are going to go through the complaint. It's not a very long complaint, but we are going to go through it. It's 13 pages. And we're going to talk about the likelihood of success. And I'm going to talk to you about his claims that this is a defense of the state of Israel. Is this really... Are they really going after him because he's attacked the state of Israel? Is this a personal thing? Is it a personal thing between Kash and Elijah, that Kash is going after Elijah and he's using his girlfriend to do it? Is it his girlfriend, or is it like a legitimate classic defamation case where we're talking about a woman who we're going to see there? She's alleging that she was defamed, in that Elijhah Schaffer implied by implication that she is a Mossad agent. And we'll talk about whether or not that would qualify, assuming that such a statement has been made, which is a very big assumption. Now, I'm not going to just make that assumption. We're going to parse through to see whether or not that statement was ever made. That's one of the major factors that Elijah tries going in on in his oral statement, that there was no such statement that was ever made. But whether or not that's would classify as being defamatory, and we're going to look through all the different elements of what defamation is, and in defamation by implication, and whether or not this is a lawsuit that has legitimacy, or whether it's, I don't know, face guarding for Israel, the way that I'm sure the woke right would portray this lawsuit. And they could be right. It could be right. Or it could be that she's like, look, you're going around telling people and making up crap that I'm a Mossad agent and I have nothing to do with them. And now all these people out there, like thousands, hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of people, all think I'm a spy against the US government. Like, you can understand how someone, assuming that it's not true, you can understand how someone would be like, are you out of your mind that you think that that's okay? That you just make this claim about me, which without any basis in fact? So we're going to talk about her position, whether Times v. Sullivan comes in here, because Times v. Sullivan puts a higher yardstick for someone who's a public figure, and whether or not she qualifies as a public figure. And I'm going to try and break this down for you so we can actually try. And I'm not going to tell you this is good or this is bad. I don't expect to come to that. But I'm going to try and give you factors so that you could reach your own decision as to whether or not you think that this is a good faith lawsuit, or whether it's a wrongful attack on free speech that Kash Patel and or the U.S. government does not like, the way Elijhah Schaffer seems to think it is. So that's the basis. A little background here, just so you all know. I know Elijhah Schaffer. I've never met him personally. I have appeared with him on Nick Rekieta's stream. And he also invited me to come on his channel, which I went on once, I think roughly 2 years ago. or so. I think it was after October 7th. And because I just remember feeling as if there was definitely a palpable in the audience, there was a palpable feeling of sentiment of just like, oh, this guy's a Jew. That was definitely something that I got from his audience, and not in the way you would expect of like, oh, cool, he's a Jew. No, it wasn't like that. It was not one of those. Which it happens more often than you think. But no, it was definitely not happy about the fact of just not happy with my DNA. Just really, really not happy with my DNA. I'm pretty proud of my DNA, but they were not impressed. A noticeable percentage of his audience was very unimpressed with my DNA. And I even asked him when he got aggressive with Israel, I was like, aren't you Jewish? You have like the most Jewish name ever. Elijhah Schaffer? Schaffer's a Jewish last name. Elijah is a very Jewish name. Like, how are you not Jewish? and he sort of like hemmed and hawed on that. I was just like, I still don't, as to whether or not he's Jewish. But yeah, the topic came up a lot. Anyway, I do not have anything personal against Elijhah Schaffer. Some of his positions I disagree with strongly. I think that, I don't like to label anyone anti-Semitic. So and whether he is or not, it's his it's his right to be that. I'm not sure if he's an American or not. I think he is. I think he might have migrated to Australia at some point. I'm not even sure where he's living right now. But I want you all to be aware of my background, the extent of my background with Elijhah Schaffer. So there's, that's out of the way. And yeah, I have no problems with Elijhah Schaffer. I would not classify him as anti-Semitic, but I would say I would classify him as anti-Semitic adjacent. That's my own personal take on him. I think that it's hard for him to like say he's not anti-Semitic. He's very comfortable with people who are anti-Semitic, like really comfortable. So yeah. That's where I would classify him. That's my personal take. You might think that that's too harsh on him. You might think I'm not giving him enough credit for being a big enough anti-Semite. I don't know. I don't know what you think, and you're probably all going to have your own opinions on it. And that's what this is. But I wanted to get all of that out of the way. I don't think you're going to see anything of that bleeding through my coverage of this, because I am going to try and focus purely from the legal side of things as to whether or not this is a valid defamation suit or whether it's pumped up bogus. So that's the objective tonight. Last night was like streaming with dial-up connection. It was bad. It was so bad. Oh my God, it was frustrating. Gimme audio and even video is Chris personal on my PET scans. Results are on my chart. It's not good. I have a decreased but residual tumor. I'll see my doctor on Thursday for clarification. Please pray. Scared. I'm sure you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine, Kimmy. You're going to be fine. It's going to be awesome. You're going to be awesome. You're going to be fine. You're going to be great. Trust me. It's all going to be great. You're going to be good. Okay. But I'm sorry you have to deal with that, because I know that the stress must be enormous. All right. Should we start with the lawsuit or with his claims? I think we're going to start with his claims, because this is how I came to it. So we're going to start with his video. He put out a 14-minute, 43-second video where he was talking about the lawsuit. Someone had mentioned this to me the other day, and asked me if I was going to cover it, the Elijhah Schaffer suit, and I didn't know anything about it. And so I just sort of punted on it. But I do think that to the extent free speech is being hindered, it's on me to try and call that out, see if that's happening. So let's get into it. This is not the way I like it to look. We can make this look a little prettier. Let's make it look a little prettier. That's better. We'll make me a little bigger. Should do like this. Ooh, that's interesting. That works really well for portrait. I think that's good. I think that'll work, because you're not going to have to see much of him. Let's do it this way. We'll try it.
Over the weekend, I received concerning news that I was being sued for $5 million by Kash Patel's girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins. And the reason why might actually shock you. About a couple months ago, I posted this photo on the public social media platform X. I posted it with no caption, no suggestions of any malintent or any slander, defamation, or criticisms of character.
That's really not necessarily true. You see, so obviously he's going to frame this in the way that he wants. To say that there's no suggestion of any issue with her character is kind of ridiculous. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous because there's at least a suggestion. There's at least a suggestion that of nothing less than his subjective opinion that her relationship with Kash Patel is relevant, because he's not giving you the full thing on this. We will let's, before we go any further in this section, just so we're all understanding what he's saying in context, because I watched about half of his statement here, and at least halfway through, he didn't show you the post. I'm going to show you the post that was made, and I'll make it big so you can actually appreciate exactly what it is that he allegedly did. It's this post right here. I'll make it larger so you can all see it just swell. So he was re-quoted. He was quote tweeting some person named Hen Mazik, who had wrote an article, wrote a novel. This is like a short synopsis or opening paragraph, which says Mossad sent female operatives. This is what you see when if you're following Elijhah Schaffer on September 14th. Hen Mazik wrote, Mossad sent female operatives deep into Iran, seducing top officials, infiltrating government surveillance networks, and carrying out sabotage missions. Now, that's the start of the article. And he just quote tweeted it with a picture of Kash Patel standing next to his girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins. And let's also face it. I mean, I think this is mildly relevant. This is her wearing some sort of evening gown design. It's not like they took a picture of them. Like, I think the picture is designed to. All right, I'm not going to read further into it. I'm just going to say this was not just like a homie, cooking a meal type of thing, but like, I think that's designed to find a more evening wear type of pose. We'll just put it that way. So that's what he posted. We're going to get into what that article says in the complaint, but that article goes on and on about Mossad female agents. And her claim essentially is that this is designed to make a statement that she's a Mossad agent, which she's not, at least according to her claim. Let's go back to this. All right.
I did so attached to an X post shared by another account that I'm not connected to.
Oh, I apologize. I forgot that he had referenced that. My apologies. I'm certainly my objective here is to give everyone here as fair a shake as possible and just look at it from a legal perspective. So
that talked about government agents being compromised. Now Alexis Wilkins is saying that I owe her $5 million for damages, the exact evaluation of my company, and if I cannot come up with that money, that I'm going to have to shut down my business, give up all of my digital assets and my entire voice online in order to pay her back. So why does Kash Patel's girlfriend want to silence me? Well, it comes down to the lawsuit itself. Before anyone jumps to conclusions and says, well, don't say that she's a honeypot, I'd like to say, I never did.
Okay. And to be fair, he just put a picture up, and he didn't say the words that she's a honeypot. That's true. He just put a picture up when he was quote tweeting a specific post.
I never would. I never felt like suggesting that, never even suggested that in my own head. So why am I being...
That I struggle to believe. They didn't suggest in his own head. What I think makes sense to say, if you're his counsel, what's the most likely and perhaps one of the strongest arguments you can make here is that at worst this is a statement of opinion, and he's expressing his opinion that she is or may be a Mossad agent. I mean, because if you look at that post there, you have to ask yourself, is that a statement of fact? Is he saying she is one? Or is he just, you can sort of attach your own caption to what he's actually saying in that post. But I think that he probably could make a fairly strong claim that this is, a statement of his opinion.
Being sued for something I never did. To give proof of that, in section 14 of the lawsuit, it states, while the defendant may not have included any caption to spell out the meaning of his post, he didn't have to. Ever since Kash Patel was appointed as director of the FBI in February of 2025, the conspiratorial corners of the internet and social media have been spreading false narratives about Miss Wilkins as an Israeli Mossad agent, spy, or quote, honeypot, who is only in the relationship with Kash Patel to spy on and manipulate the United States government.
So what she's saying is that there's a well-established narrative out there already that she's a spy, which I think perhaps she feels like, or her lawyers feel like she has to put that in there in order to give context to this. And obviously they're trying to say that he's part of this conspiratorial wing. And to the extent they are conspiratorial, he certainly is. I shouldn't say certainly. I'd say it doesn't seem unfair to qualify him as being part of that conspiratorial corner. So that being said, we're going to see more statements that he made. We're basically saying that Israel has too much control over the United States. So does this all get read together? And to the extent that this is being said by lots of people, so when he posts this picture up there, is that a statement of fact? Or is that a statement of one more person's opinion? Isn't Kash a lawyer? I don't think it's defamation. I think he is a lawyer.
Defendant's wordless reply, it goes on to say. So to clarify, before we go any further, if you post a public photo of a government official and his romantic partner, who he's not married to, a very important fact we'll talk about, you as a private citizen or a member of the press can be bankrupted, have your entire company shut down, or completely mocked, slandered, and dragged through lawfare because of what? Because of your First Amendment protected rights. Now, I believe that this...
Now, I mean, that's a very generous, and you expect him to give a generous framing to himself. I don't have a problem with him doing that, but to be fair, that's a very, very generous framing, as if like he just, one day Hazard decided, I'm going to just post a picture of Kash and his girlfriend without any other context, or the fact that it's a quote tweet to an article about Mossad agents. But you expect him to be giving framing that's going to be in defense of himself and saying how he's being wrongly attacked. So I don't begrudge him the opportunity to try and make this case to the public. I'm simply saying this is a reminder that this is a perspective which is going to be shading in favor of Elijhah Schaffer, obviously, and that this is an area where that shading kind of becomes very overt.
Lawsuit is not only an attack on our First Amendment and our constitutional rights given to us by God, but I believe this is also a violation of SLAPP ordinances. This seems to be a proxy lawsuit, if anything, from Kash Patel himself, and I have the evidence to prove it. Okay. We'll start here by talking about what is this lawsuit about and why is it so concerning. As I just read in the previous section, Alexis Wilkins states that I never said anything about her being a Mossad agent. So how am I being sued for saying anything about that? Considering I'm being sued for things I didn't say? Yeah, you heard that right. They're suing me for the implications based upon previous posts I had made on my X account, not about Alexis, not about Kash, but about the state of Israel. I take you to section 7.
And assuming that what he's saying is correct, and we're going to go through the entire lawsuit, you can see how he's basically saying that this is a defamation suit which is going to be woven together based on a number of different factors that you need to have links to all these factors in order to come to the conclusion that he's making a definitive statement about Alexis Wilkins that she's a Mossad agent. And to the extent that you do need to have these, assuming that they're necessary, which I'm not sure they are, but they are in the complaint. This is, and I just want to clarify something about this for a moment, y'all. Sometimes lawyers have a habit of, when we're drafting something, a legal filing, sometimes we'll be a little bit belt and suspenders, meaning you sort of want to double check, triple check, make sure that everything is covered. And this way you feel as if you're more likely to survive an inevitable motion to dismiss, which is what you want in the first place. And you want to survive, you want to survive that. So you're basically trying to throw in everything there in order to make sure that there's as much, there's enough cushion there to support, enough foundation there to support your claims. So much like when you're building a foundation, it's very possible that you can have excess number of pylons as support beams. You have your outside frame and you have some support beams, and that in reality, there's enough there to hold it, but you still keep putting in more support beams, more support beams, more support beams, more support beams. Some of those support beams may really be somewhat extraneous and unnecessary. So when we're looking at a complaint and we're seeing that they're throwing things into a complaint to help bolster their claims, it doesn't mean as soon as you knock out one of those bolstering marks, oh, well, that's it, you lost now, because those are just bolstering, right? So the point that I'm making here is he's starting from a position, and I do not believe Elijah's a lawyer. He may have consulted with his attorneys about this or not. If he didn't, he's kind of foolish. Before making a statement like this, he should have consulted with his attorneys. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt that he did. But because I don't think he's foolish. The ability to knock out one of those bolstering things is something that's helpful, and it certainly helps in the court of public opinion a lot, which is important. It's important to everyone here. In fact, in many ways, this entire lawsuit, from both the plaintiff and defendant side, is a fight for the battle of court in the court of public opinion, perhaps much more so than it is about the actual dollars and cents being sued for in court. I want to say that again because this is very, very important. When Kash Patel and or his girlfriend, and really she's the only named plaintiff in this suit, so for the moment let's just refer to her as being Alexis Wilkins. When Alexis Wilkins files a lawsuit, she is likely, I'm going to qualify, I'll tell you right now, she's a public figure, okay? She is a public figure under Times v. Sullivan. She's a country singer. She's Kash's girlfriend. A lot of folks know Alexis Wilkins. She wants a lot of folks to know her. That's how she ends up helping her career. So she's seeking to be a public figure. She is a public figure. To me, I have a hard time accepting a perspective from anyone that she would not qualify as a public figure. Part of her damages is that as a public figure, makes appearances on PragerU. She's got the singing thing. To the extent, in fact, part of her damages stem from the fact that she's a public figure and that Elijhah Schaffer's allegedly improper and defamatory claims about her are damaging to her. So why? Because it's hurting her public life. So so I think that anyone's going to say she's a public figure, which means under New York Times v. Sullivan, she has to show what the Supreme Court has called actual malice, which means that not only is it a statement of fact that is derogatory and a lie, but he has to show a reckless disregard for the truth when he's making these claims. So that's an added hurdle that Alexis Wilkins has as a public figure. Now, what I was getting at is this is in many ways a battle for court opinion that she feels, I'm sure, if she wins, more important than the money that she might be able to extract through judgment execution purposes against Elijah and or his company. But more important than that, and probably just Elijah, because I think he's the only named defendant. I have to look at it again. But more important than that is the idea that she can now go out there and say a court of law has basically adjudicated, a finding of fact by a jury has now adjudicated that she is not, in fact, a Mossad agent. Because that if she is a Mossad agent, she loses. So I think that a large part of what she's looking for is to get that declaration, even if she wins just $1, not 5 million, that is a statement that she's certainly be seeking from a court of a jury to come out and reach that conclusion. From his perspective, Elijah's perspective, this is a guy who basically he's looking to win in the court of public opinion and use this as anyone in his position would to try and basically, say, hey, I'm being wrongfully attacked here and trying to be silenced. So that's a natural perspective for someone in his position to do. And that's why I'm saying that this is very much a fight in the battle in the court of public opinion. And that's why if he's able to knock, the reason that I bring this up now is because if he's able to knock out one of these bolstering things, able to show thinness in her claims in some of these areas which are bolstering, not necessarily, not an essential part necessarily to support her claims, but some of these bolstering elements, if he can help knock those out, it helps him win in the court of public opinion, even if it doesn't necessarily make her entire lawsuit cave in, because it helps engender more favorable perspective of him over Kash and Alexis. And for purposes of court of public opinion, Kash and Alexis are going to be deemed as pretty much one entity. So so he's looking to basically, strengthen that. And that's why it makes sense for him to try and knock out these bolstering things.
17 of evidence. Defendant frequently posts anti-Israel rhetoric accusing Israel of controlling the United States and its politicians, in which they share a post that I said Trump doesn't want to admit that Netanyahu doesn't fear him. Israel has more control over the USA than we do over them. Our politicians are hook, line, and sinker.
Now, I just want to point out, again, this is just the lawyer and me talking. I understand he wants to make this statement, and maybe his lawyers told him it's okay to admit that he wrote these things, but he just said a post in which I said, which now could be used against him in case his lawyers ever want to try and say, how do you know he even wrote this rather than someone else writing it under his name? Which could, in theory, be a helpful defense. It may not be a helpful defense because he still could be liable under a doctrine called respondeat superior, that he's responsible for what your employees do for you. But many public figures, people like Elijhah Schaffer and others, will have other people who are ghostwriting under their name. And now he just said, which I wrote. So, it would be upon the burden of proof is on Alexis to establish that he's the one who wrote it, and he just conceded that. Now, maybe his lawyers aren't planning on bringing that up. I'm just throwing this out here because I'm trying to give the most thorough legal coverage of this I can.
Sold out to the Jewish state of regime. It's genuinely disheartening, and we must remove these parasites from AIPAC. They also posted more evidence in the lawsuit, nothing to do with Alexis Wilkins, nothing to do with Kash Patel, and nothing to do with me saying anything about her being a Mossad agent. I never said it, so they don't have evidence. So why is it that they've made the entire lawsuit about my thoughts on the Israeli government? That's highly suspicious. They also posted more.
I don't really see how that's suspicious. And I do think that a lot of this is chump for the people who are anti-Israel. He's definitely trying to throw as much chum out there as he can for the anti-Israel perspective. So, that's what he's going to do, because again, this is a battle for court of public opinion, and that's a popular position to be taking right now, to be taking a strongly anti-Zionist, anti-Israel perspective.
Evidence where I said my entire feed is just about people glazing Israel and defending the occupation of our nation. It's incredible. It all happened after the forced TikTok sale on behalf of the ADL. I also said you either get Israel-controlled politicians who hate you or foreigners who hate you. Welcome to America. I hate it here. And one of the last posts they put, there's many more that I'll read, is it breaks my heart that Trump could have been if he wasn't a slave to Israel. Tragic.
which is a stupid post, by the way. I'm just gonna mention it. It's a pretty stupid post. I mean, look at everything Trump has done. So you're going to say the good things he did is because of Israel? I mean, how many countless good, amazing, great things has Trump done already in his first 9 months? And I just think it's a moronic post.
Now, if you're like me and you're wondering, what did I possibly do to receive a lawsuit for $5 million, which they suspiciously got the exact valuation of my intellectual property?
Trust me, they don't think that your intellectual property is worth $5 million. I don't think. I think if they thought it was worth $5 million, they would have asked for 10. That's I doubt they evaluate your intellectual property as $5 million. I mean, no offense, his intellectual property is worth a lot more than mine. I'm not saying otherwise. I'm just saying. I think that to call that, that somehow they got it. If they had it, and they had it, if they had it at that 5 million number, they'd be suing for 10.
That would force me to shut down and apologize and turn over all my assets to the district court. That would.
Oh, I definitely think that they're looking to shut you down. That I agree with. I think they are looking to shut you down. And I want to be clear here. I don't want Elijhah Schaffer shut down. I do think, and I can understand how this comes across as an attempt to shut him down. It does. It comes across as an attempt to basically silence him.
Require me to turn over communications in discovery, which I'll talk about what we're planning on doing and how we're going to be responding to this. I'm going to tell you, this is a very dangerous precedent for the American people, because the entire evidentiary case they have against me is that I do not support Israel, that I do not believe that.
What? The evidentiary case they have against you is the post that you made.
Americans are free, that we are occupied by Israel, and that my criticisms of Kash are why this is filed. Now, let's talk about this.
Those are all very conclusory statements that he's making there. Just simple lawyer. I mean, I understand, and we'll go through the complaint, so we'll get like a better. I feel almost as if I want to go through the complaint sooner, because a lot of the stuff that he's saying here are all conclusions based on, that he's trying to say that this is why, as opposed to the much more obvious fact staring us in the face that, assuming she's telling the truth, that she's not a Mossad agent. Let's just for the rest of this stream, we're going to take as a given that she's not, in fact, a Mossad agent. I have no way of knowing whether or not she is. I do not believe she's a Mossad agent. I think it's very, very unlikely that she is a Mossad agent, but I don't know that she's not. So, for the purposes of just not having to go through the awkward rephrasing over and over again of assuming she's telling the truth about not being a Mossad agent, which just will slow down and confuse my content during this stream, I'm just going to take it as a given, because if she is in fact a Mossad agent, then the case is a loser, and there's nothing really to discuss, right? Because then it's true. It's a truthful statement, and you have nothing. So she filed this lawsuit. I assume she's going to be able to establish that she's not, in fact, a Mossad agent. And once we can establish that she can, once we come to a conclusion that she can establish that fact, that she's not indeed a Mossad agent, in that case, now we can move forward and see whether or not there's defamation that's going on here. And so if, in fact, Alexis, you're a Mossad agent, your case is a loser. Okay? And Elijah, you win, hands down, it's all over. The only basis and reason to go forward is on the assumption that she can prove that she's not a Mossad agent. So, assuming she's not a Mossad agent, and that is the assumption I will have going forward. Now, I lost my train of thought as to where I was going to go with this. Yeah, so now the issue is, I know exactly where I was going. So now the issue is, you're saying you're trying to portray this as all being about Kash Patel and what he wants and how he feels, or people who support the state of Israel and how they feel and they don't like you or whatever. And what I'm saying is, the very obvious thing is, ask yourself this. I'm assuming that if you're watching this now, you're not a Mossad agent, right? Would you like if people were going around and saying that your life partner, that you basically are a spy who now has a life partner who has a high government position because you're a spy? it's an offensive thing. It's basically saying that you're some hooker for a foreign agency. So it is saying that she's a honeypot. So I mean, if you're Alexis Wilkins here, you say this guy is lying to the public that I'm a Mossad agent, I'm a freaking American citizen, and she's basically saying that I'm some operative from a foreign government, and now I have millions of people who are all believing this stupid, insane lie about me. That's the obvious reason as to why you file a defamation suit. And that has nothing to do with state of Israel or anything like that. It's like, hey, if it wasn't the state of Israel, if it was the state of, if it was the UK or Russia or Mongolia or Cuba or freaking Taiwan, you'd be like, hey, I don't want people thinking that I'm a spy for some country, and this is why and I'm here to harm America. And I basically seduce this high-ranking public official so that I can harm America. It's a pretty derogatory thing to say. Exactly. Honeypots are people too. Right.
I want to clarify these things. I never said anything about Alexis Wilkins, period. She said that I had a wordless reply. Sounds dystopian, doesn't it? She also said I didn't.
Okay, that's just ignoring the fact that let's just pause for a second, Elijah. Okay, I have no idea if he's going to watch this stream or not. There's a fairly decent chance he may. But how else is someone supposed to interpret this other than that you are making that statement about her? Now, you could say it's an opinion statement, and that I think I can actually probably get behind, that it's your opinion that she's a Mossad agent rather than a statement of fact. But let's not pretend that your objective here is that anyone who would see your post would come to a conclusion that it is nothing less than your opinion. Then she's a Mossad agent. No, it's like you can't. To me, this feels almost like this part of his video feels almost childish. It's like as if anyone who sees that isn't understanding it for what it is you're trying to say. Like I shared 1.5 million times. All these people just happen to misunderstand it the same way. I mean, it's pretty clear. So if you're trying to convince a jury, you have to get the majority of them to think that you're making this statement about her. Now, they might come to the conclusion that it was your opinion that you were expressing, not a statement of fact, and that's I can understand people coming to that conclusion. But to pretend that you're not making an implied, you're not trying to at the very least express an implied opinion here that you think that she's a Mossad agent. I mean, come on. What else are people supposed to conclude? I mean, seriously, you happen to get an article. You attach to an article talking about high-ranking Mossad spies who go in and bed foreign agents, and for the purposes of sabotaging them, and then you get a picture of a woman with a high-ranking, dressed in some night cocktail dress, standing next to her high-ranking American boyfriend. So even if you never wrote anything in the past, and this is part of the whole bolstering thing, it's possible to make the point, if you're Alexis Wilkins, that if you had never written a single word about Israel or Kash Patel or anything of that topic at any point in your life in the past, and you simply took that article and attached on top of it a picture, that picture right there, anyone would naturally come to the conclusion that it is nothing less than your opinion that she is an operative of some government. Maybe not Israel, maybe not Mossad, but I mean, it's attached and it's an argument about Mossad agents. It's the most logical, natural conclusion, and you knew it. That's why you posted it. You knew that that's what people would conclude. There's no other reason to post it. Why? It's a mistake of the button. You had to find the picture, put it up there, pick out that picture, put it up there, and repost it. So come on. And so to pretend that because you didn't write anything, you're not making a statement, that's you're not making any claim at all, is kind of silly.
Imply anything about her being a Mossad agent. In fact, it says that I just posted a picture of our unmarried head of intelligence in our country, one of the single most important positions in the world, that is dating a girl who we know nothing about.
So yes, you're now admitting that that's what you're saying. You see, this is something I don't know if he spoke to his lawyers, but before he made this statement or not. I don't know if he showed them the statement before he published it or not. If I was his lawyer, I'd be like, Elijah, what are you doing here? Elijah, you're basically admitting what the point of your statement was. I mean, come on.
He is not married in a committed relationship by law. That's important. And he's on the dating market. Do you want your FBI director to be on the dating market? I just think it's interesting, whether he's with her or anybody else. It's like, yeah, people can, be susceptible towards whatever's going on. And that's not even why I posted the photo. But
you just said it right now. You just said it. You just said it. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is so... Okay. What am I watching? what am I watching here? Why would you do this? Why would you say these things? Why would you do that? So now you're basically telling us. Let's hear this again. Think about this. If you're Alexis Wilkins' attorneys, you're seeing this statement and you are totally saving this and introducing this as evidence as to what was going through his mind. I mean, why would a defendant say the things he's saying?
we know nothing about.
Listen to this.
She said that I had a wordless reply.
One more
Sounds
time.
dystopian, doesn't it? She also said I didn't imply anything about her being a Mossad agent. In fact, it says that I just posted a picture of our unmarried head of intelligence in our country, one of the single most important positions in the world, that is dating a girl who we know nothing about. He is not married in a committed relationship by law. That's important. And he's on the dating market. Do you want your FBI director to be on the dating market? I just think it's interesting, whether he's with her or anybody else. It's like, yeah, people can, be susceptible towards whatever's going on. And that's not even why I posted the photo. But, well, people could be. So what would be wrong if somebody even did imply that?
We need to go line by line through the complaint to see how much of that he was reading from the complaint. And he can say, no, I wasn't saying that was my opinion. I was just reading what was in the complaint. And how much of that is not in the complaint? Because I don't know what you're doing. Bro, I don't know what you're doing.
I didn't imply it. But it's like, even if they're accusing me of doing what they say I did, is there a crime in just wondering if your intelligence agencies are being led by uncompromised individuals?
So if it's a statement of opinion, then it's not a crime. And it's not. And by the way, even if you committed defamation, that's not a crime either. This is not criminal law. This is civil law. So it's not a crime, but that doesn't mean it's also not recompensable by the person you damaged if it's a statement of fact.
No, obviously not. Look at James O'Keefe's entire investigative portal. He literally finds unmarried government officials, intelligence operatives from the CIA, and he sets them up on fake dates, uses them to get sensitive information, and then compromises entire departments. It happens all the time. Americans have the right to question if that's happening to anyone in our government. Doesn't matter if they're a private citizen or a public figure like Miss Wilkins, who, by the way, Kash has said is a public figure. He boasts all the time how she's one of the most popular country singers of all time.
And I agree. She is a public figure. She's a public figure. And he's bringing this up now to point out in the New York Times v. Sullivan that you have to establish that she's going to have to establish actual malice here.
She's also a PragerU commentator, another organization tied to the IDF and Israeli government, allegedly. Well, I'll tell you this. I want to ask yourself the question here. If the head of the FBI girlfriend is suing a private citizen and
I got to tell you, I gotta tell you, I've never heard the allegations that PragerU is tied to the IDF. PragerU has done such amazing work. Put Israel aside for a moment. They've done such amazing work as far as helping strengthen the conservative movement. That if in fact they are behind it, you should be thanking the IDF. PragerU does a great job of dissecting every flaw in woke ideology. So if the IDF is behind that, you should be a big fan of Israel.
A journalist for posting a picture without any inference, based only on the evidence that he criticized a foreign government. We have to ask ourselves, not only is Alexis Wilson foolish, is she stupid? That's my question. How dumb are you that you would file this lawsuit? You're making a mockery of yourself, your own intelligence. You make embarrassing your boyfriend. But most importantly, you're embarrassing the FBI, the United States government, and overall the Trump administration.
How? With
your foolish attempt to try to intimidate and bully someone from being able to use their First Amendment right.
Okay. I don't see how her private suit here reflects on the United States of America. I don't think that's a bit of a stretch there, Elijah.
So I ask myself these two questions. Does Kash Patel know about this? Well, if he doesn't, and he doesn't know that his
I think he likely does. I'd be shocked if he doesn't know. I mean, there's something wrong if he doesn't know.
Girlfriend is waging $1 million lawsuits using, according to Max Blumenthal in the Gray Zone, she's using Kash Patel's legal resources, his own law firm. She's using the FBI director's law firm.
Well, then she definitely knows.
Blumenthal's reporting. We'll see if that turns out to be true. Well, if he doesn't, what kind of FBI director doesn't know that his girlfriend is filing frivolous lawsuits against the press for an ungodly amount of money, using his attorneys and his name to weaponize the legal system against the journalists and a media company?
I would assume that he knows. I would assume that he knows. Is this a frivolous lawsuit? I need to look at the complaint to tell you whether or not it's frivolous.
True. Now, if he does know this,
and I see some of you saying comments like this, the press. I think that he's no less the press than MSNBC or the New York Times. So, yeah, I agree with his self-assessment, calling himself the press.
Is a proxy lawsuit now by Kash Patel, the FBI director of the USA. And now this is problematic because now you have the most powerful law enforcement agency in the entire country trying to stop private citizens from posting public pictures I guess they don't like. Are we allowing ourselves to do that? Are they allowed to do that? I don't think so.
He's sort of ignoring the very obvious white elephant in the room, which is there was an implication we're trying to make, which you just admitted 3 minutes ago, was things that it seemed like you were admitting 3 minutes ago was what exactly you were thinking.
So now, of course, we're on the fence here. If we allow Kash and his girlfriend, who are now obviously, this lawsuit wasn't about her, it entirely deviated from anything about her. It was all about my criticisms of Kash, the way Kash has been under stress, and again, paints me as an anti-Semite. Now, why would they do that? Well, there's only two reasons. Either A, they're trying to make the court think I'm a bad person so that they'll rule in her favor by smearing me and slandering me with unrelated facts, or B, that's what this lawsuit is about. And I believe the latter. They're both true, but the latter.
Do you think being an anti-Semite makes you a bad person? I'm so confused because I wouldn't think he thinks that.
This lawsuit is about silencing critics of Israel.
And this is, it's like he goes back and forth between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. This is the part where I'm just like, I'm very confused by what he's even trying to say here. Those 2 points he made, I want to hear that again. Wait.
Proxy lawsuit now by Kash Patel, the FBI director of the USA. And now this is problematic because now you have the most powerful law enforcement agency in the entire country trying to stop private citizens from posting public pictures I guess they don't like. Are we allowing ourselves to do that? Are they allowed to do that?
It's not public pictures they don't like. It's insinuations that you're making, if anything. And you know that. Anyone who's watching you and actually knows what you posted knows that. As a podcaster, it bothers me the way he's talking now, because it's almost like, what are you trying to just hide from what you actually were saying? It's like he's dancing around what he actually was saying. This is it's a legacy media thing. It's a legacy media. This is like a legacy media type of move.
I don't think so. So now, of course, we're on the fence here. If we allow Kash and his girlfriend, who are now obviously, this lawsuit wasn't about her, it entirely deviated from anything about her.
How is it not anything about her? We need to look at this lawsuit. In fact, I'm going to do that now. Let's get into the lawsuit, because I need to look at it. Let's look at it together. Someone please tell that idiot the FBI is an intelligence. That's the CIA. FBI is federal law enforcement. Thank you. Losing brain cells listening to T Crybaby. He does seem like, and look, when he's sued for $5 million, I can understand him getting emotional about it. So I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here, but yeah. Can you guys see this? That you can see. It is just Alexis Wilkins versus Elijhah Schaffer. Can you guys read this, or should I make it a little larger for you? Let's see if I can make this a little larger. Get one bigger. No, you're not going to see that. That's not good. All right. You guys can read that, right? That's good. Is it good? You can read it? All right. Let's edit. I'll have this as... Okay, and we'll... I'm going to want to... why is this not doing this? Edit. Did it. This is what I want. Add comments. Why is it doing this to me? This is doing a weird thing to me. I just want to be able to draw on this thing. This is very strange. Give me a moment. Figure out why my PDF is doing this, and we will get this thing up and going in a way that's a little better, so I can actually draw on this thing. It's saving it to... All right. I can't waste any more time on this. I don't know why it's doing this. Come on. Size this PDF. My Adobe's being a little weird just because that's what happens. Just let me freaking draw. So it's not letting me edit it. Oh, I see what's happening here. Okay. My apologies. All right, let's just go forward here. Okay, defendant Elijah. Before I get into this, even if you assume that Elijah is guilty, she's been publicly against hundreds of actual honeypot allegations prior to Elijah's post. So why sue him instead of anyone else of right because of money? Yeah, that is one of the reasons. He is one of the loudest barkers about it. He's one of the louder ones. And I think that she's going after a couple of people now. I think she went after Seraphim also for similar claims, I believe. So that could play in on the damages element. It's one of the reasons I think that it's a good, you're asking a fair and reasonable question here. She's not going to go after somebody who's got 30 followers, right? She's going to go after a public figure who's coming after her. And because of A, the money, and B, the trying to win the court of public opinion, right? If she goes after someone's got 30 followers, that's really bullying. He's portraying himself as being bullied here, but in a battle between Elijah Schaffer and Alexis Wilkins, now if you portray Alexis Wilkins as being part of Kash Patel and the United States government, that's a different thing, and that's how he wants to portray this. And it's not unreasonable for him to make that claim. Let's go through the complaint, and we'll try and glean more about the legitimacy of what Elijah's claims are here. All right, defendant Elijah Schaffer has perpetuated a malicious lie about Alexis Wilkins, falsely claiming that she, an American-born country singer, is an agent of a foreign government assigned to manipulate and compromise the director of the FBI. Defendant, an internet personality who makes a living as a podcaster and political commentator, profiting on churning controversy and outrage, is using this fabricated narrative as self-enriching clickbait and has published it to his sizable audience, painting a target on Miss Wilkins for no reason other than her association with FBI Director Kash Patel. Accordingly, Ms. Wilkins seeks to hold defendant accountable for his malicious and knowing lies. Now, and I agree with you on this, Jacob Castro, that it is 100% legal to be anti-Semitic. The point is, it's not legal to just lie about someone and say that they're doing something in a defamatory way. So that's what she's. If you look at her as an individual doing this, and we have to go through his complaint to see whether how much that is accurate. You can understand why she feels like she's been wronged. Okay, plaintiff Alexis Wilkins is a resident and citizen of the United States in the state of Tennessee. Defendant Elijhah Schaffer is an individual who's resident and citizen of the state of Florida. That's why he's being sued in the state of Florida. The court has subject matter jurisdiction over his case of action pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1332, which means it's a diversity claim. It's a claim between residents of two different states in excess of $75,000. And they give you venue. Let's get into the factual background. Ms. Wilkins is an American born in the United States. She's a patriotic, conservative Christian country music artist and published writer who also works for conservative advocacy and educational company PragerU. She's in a long-term relationship with Kash Patel, which began in January 2023. This was widely known. So she's in this relationship before Trump even wins. That's part of, I think, what her point is, that in January 2023, he's not an FBI director. Trump is not president. Most folks are thinking he's probably not going to win at this point, right? And even if he does win, it doesn't mean that Kash Patel is going to have any role in his government. But I think it's designed to help support the notion that she did not engage in this relationship for the purposes of that Mossad didn't put her in place with Kash Patel. This is widely known. Ms. Wilkins has posted photos of herself with Director Patel on Instagram as early as January 2024. Now, January 2024 is still 11 months before Trump was elected. In 2023, no one was thinking about Trump being elected. I mean, no one but his, diehard fans. We MAGA folk were saying that, but it didn't seem like it was, we didn't even start the primaries yet. Long before that. So as early as January 2024, on November 30th, 2024, newly reelected President Donald J. Trump announced his intention to nominate Kash Patel as the next president of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. On February 20th, 2025, the U.S. Senate confirmed Director Patel to that position. Defendant is an internet personality and CEO of Rift TV. Defendant has over 811,000 followers on X, where his posts frequently reach tens of thousands of views and numerous reposts. Defendant routinely posts politically charged content to generate controversy, prompting clicks, thereby driving engagement revenue. I think that this is a fair claim to make, by the way. I don't think there's anything really wrong with making that statement. He might disagree with it, but this is designed to help show that there's a profitability to this. Now, when we're assessing this and we're looking at the legitimacy of this complaint, we need to look at it again. It has to be a viable complaint. She's trying to post up for the purposes of court, the benefits that he has from it, from this, and his motivations to basically be full of crap. And but in trying to establish that there's some damages here. Is there a Jewish mafia I'm unaware of? Why would Mossad want to control the federal law enforcement? Well, there is probably some sort of, we say Jewish mafia. I don't know. I don't know. The woke right is positive that there is. I'm not part of any Jewish mafia. The only as far as like a mafia, the way people use the term mafia, traditionally, like when you think of like Italian mafia. So that I would say no. The closest thing that I would have to the Italian mafia is the notion that there are these different organizations that someone can call upon in the event a man is refusing to give a woman a divorce. Under Jewish law, a man has to divorce his wife, and he has to basically agree to the divorce. So some couples that are headed squarely towards Splitsville, sometimes the husband will kind of be pretty much a jerk about it, try and hold her divorce decree because she cannot remarry unless she gets divorced, try to hold her family hostage if she comes for money. And some folks will basically send, there are supposedly, and I've never encountered anyone who's done it or who's needed it, done it, or encountered them in any way, but rumor has it that there are agencies that you can call who will basically go out there and beat the snot out of the guy to get him to do it. With respect to the Jewish, there's always all, everyone on the woke right is convinced that the Jews control the world. So in that sense, I'm sure they would call it a Jewish mafia. So, but unfortunately, I never get invited to, if such a thing is happening, I never get invited to any of these meetings. I think that, and I'm glad you raised that point. I'm gonna go on record and say this. I'm gonna talk about this whole. I'm gonna spend a minute talking about anti-Semitism here with y'all. Let me embiggen. All right. This question about Jews having influence and controlling the world, and this whole tentacles that Jews have notoriously had, which the anti-Semites of the world love propagating as being gospel, is ancient. I mean, this is something that's these claims have been made for well over a century. Goes back really, I guess, to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which was a fictitious book that first was created in France and then translated in different languages, which was purportedly the Jewish guide to how to control the world. I'll give you a Jewish perspective on it, and I'll give you a little bit of a sociological perspective about this phenomenon of like Jewish success. Okay, I'll give you a Jewish perspective, and I'll give you like a sociological type of perspective, and you can do with that what you want. If you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me. I don't shy away from any of these topics, and I'm totally comfortable talking about that. A Jewish perspective is if you go to Genesis 12:2, when you look there, you basically see that when God is giving blessings to Abraham, he basically says, and this comes up multiple times during the course of Genesis. If you check AI, you could probably find a few of them, that where Jews go, the nations that are welcoming them, that non-Jews get blessed by having Jews around, that they end up benefiting their society. And so that's from a Jewish perspective. It's not unnatural for countries that play host to Jews to have success. The Jews tend to do fairly well, especially in an environment like America. They're going to do well if you're intelligent, which Jews are certainly for the many knocks people bring against Jews. One of the things that we're not knocked for is a lack of intellect. So if you're intelligent and you're hardworking in America, the land of opportunity, you're likely to have success. That's just the way it is. That's part of the amazing culture that our founding fathers gave us here. So when people look at the success that Jews have in this country, I say to them, and they're like, well, why are there so many Jews who are rich and successful? They must be stealing or cheating or working in collusion with each other to try and take over the non-Jewish world, take over the Gentile world. That's what your classic anti-Semitic trope is. And what I would say is, well, from a biblical perspective, their success and the success of those around them, the success of the societies that play host to them, shouldn't be remotely surprising from a biblical perspective. You know, if that's why would God want to leave them destitute? That doesn't make sense. And the blessings that are supposed to come to nations that play host to them have been foretold 3,700 years ago and have held true for the most part. Whoever has basically been hosting the Jews has done well. And then they get chased out, and whoever chases them out usually end up collapsing shortly thereafter. So I look at it as almost like it's part of a miracle that God actually bestows upon nations which play host to large segments of Jews. Now, why did Jews rise up there and they be successful? Well, to me, that's not surprising either from a biblical perspective. If you think about, like, you know, he's not gonna have the host play host to them and then basically all be destitute. From a sociological perspective, if you believe in the American system, Jews are exactly what America asks from its legal immigrants to do. Go out there, get an education, create, invent, market, work hard, do it intelligently, and you'll grow and you'll be successful. Now, 100 years ago, most of them were doing it by being doctors and lawyers. They started becoming more entrepreneurial as well. Started going out to Hollywood, try to be on cutting edge, and they were successful. So their success, now people then see like, oh, so if this person has a Jewish name and that person has a Jewish name, they must be friends, or they must be working together, or they must, you know, be like looking out for each other. Is it possible that something like that might happen with this particular Jew or that particular Jew looking out for other Jews? No, that's certainly very, very possible. I would think it would be surprising if that wasn't happening. The same way, historically and traditionally, every subculture of America has had a natural affinity towards those who they deem to be part of their race. And blacks looking out for blacks, Irish looking out for Irish, Italians looking out for Italians. That's just the way that people are tribal. So I wouldn't be surprised that if that happens. In fact, I'd be somewhat surprised if it doesn't happen somewhat. But as far as there being a thing like, oh, because you're Jewish now, I'm going to work with you, even though I never met you before, that's pretty stupid. That's pretty dumb. They're like, now it's like, well, let me give it to this person I never met before because he's a Jew. Or, oh, there's like some sort of like secret phone lair or thing like that. That's the mythical, to me, that's the mythical crap. That it's like, that's how they got there. Everyone else is able to rise up. This American success works for everyone else, but the only way that Jews could do it is if they were basically in some sort of cabal or cahoots and they were out to basically screw over the non-Jews. So that type of paranoia is something which is not new. It's not novel. It's not novel in this country. We saw it. It predates Adolf. It was happening in France. You look at the Dreyfus affair and all the people who were just, you know, freaked out by Jews. And part of being in the diaspora, one more on the biblical element to it is that what if you look historically, the more that Jews have shed off Torah, frankly, and ignored Torah, and did everything they could to blend and basically reject God, the more hostile the conduct they've received from their hosting nation. This is like without fail, which is it's not surprising. This is also, he's talking about prophecies. That's something that Torah warns us of over and over and over again. That if you try forgetting that you're Jewish or pretending you're not Jewish, then the world will remind you that you're Jewish. So, to my fellow Jews, I say to you, study Torah. Talk to God. You'll be happier. You'll have a happier life. Be good to everyone, irrespective whether they're Jews, non-Jews. Doesn't matter. People. Every person deserves respect, love, and admiration. But for your own personal happiness and the happiness of our society, the deeper you entrench yourself in understanding and appreciating Torah, and specifically God, the happier you'll likely be, as will most Jews. As will the society you're in. Society will be happy with you. It's a weird thing, but they will be. At least that's the way it's been working for the last 2,000 years. That's what our prophets always warned us about. That's what Moses told us about. That's what Torah says. That's my take on it. So, yeah, is there a Jewish mafia in the sense of these group meetings with capos and stuff like that? No, I think that's utter nonsense. But that's why I think you see so many Jews who are as successful as they are, is because I do think that they're basically products of the American system. And the American system rewards those who are intelligent and work hard, and that they get it at a supernatural level because we get a lot of blessings from God, and God really looks out for us. So that's my take. Let me check the chat and see whether people are. I might have gotten people angry. I'm just telling you what my opinion is on it. So. Ironic that protocol started as a satire. It did. That's true. Worcestershire says, in my lifetime, I never experienced such open Jewish hatred. The left was bad enough. It was frightening and enraging. Now the right, terrifying. It is what it is. Return to God. That's what it is. It's God calling us, saying, hey, return. That's what it is. Israel developed a way to see into the future by spinning a dreidel and the speed of light, opening a window into the future. Yes. Almost all demographics are successful have families that demand of their children to study and take schooling seriously. Yep. You can look at Indians. By Indians, I don't mean Native Americans, because you all know how I feel about how that society has fared in America. But I mean actual Indians from India who are living in this country, and they kill themselves, and they do really well. And you look at Asians and how they've done here; they do remarkably well. No worse than Jews. I'm almost offended by it. Joe Landsman, we should go into business together. I'm sure Litvak and Zetas knew each other back in the Altenheim. Trust me. Yes, obviously. All right. Let me get back into it. That was a fun little diversion there. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything, because sometimes the ghetto will perk and stuff like that. Hans One Pack said, Elijah's figuring out after FA come FO. Used to watch, but he got captured into full Israel derangement syndrome. I think he did also. I think that he really he's really committed. I think it's profitable. I think it's a grift. And I don't know, maybe he believes it. I don't know, maybe he doesn't. But whether he believes it or not, there's a lot of profitability to it. And the claim is like, oh, I'm going bankrupt because Israel bankrupting me. It's like, please, you're making all your money from basically stirring up anti-Zionist hate. It's really anti-Jew hate that's dressed up as anti-Zionism. The little dancing around what he is or isn't saying is classic anti-Semite move, according to Sartre. It is 100%. Hans One Pack says, being on a dating market does not make it easier to honeypot and compromise people. If you're married, they cheat, they'll get you. Yep. Yeah, I was going to say, Eric Swalwell, isn't he married? Pretty sure he is. And go look at how he got fanged. Happy Veterans Day. Indeed. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for calling attention to that. I should have done that ages ago. I appreciate you, AK2C. Let's go through this complaint a little bit more depth. Defendant generates income through X's official monetization program, which pays him ad revenue sharing and rewards viral high engagement content. In other words, the more controversy defendant generates with his content, the more he gets paid. This is true. On September 14, 2025, user Hen Mazik published a lengthy and detailed post about the prominent role female Mossad agents have played in Israel's sophisticated intelligence efforts against Iran, including by, quote, seducing top officials, and that some of them reportedly seduced high-ranking enemy officials. What Henmazik, that's I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm not sure, said Mossad sent female operative. This is what he claimed in his post. This was what was reposted later by Elijah with the picture of what's her face of Alexis Wilkins. Mossad sent female operatives deep into Iran, seducing top officials, infiltrating government surveillance networks, and carrying out sabotage missions. In one of the most audacious operations in its history, Mossad deployed dozens of female operatives into Iran earlier this year, with boots on the ground executing missions that were critical to Israel's June strikes on Tehran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs. According to J-Post, Mossad Director David Barnea, Mossad Director David Barnea personally oversaw the unprecedented deployment, viewing the role of female agents as, quote, very substantial to Israel's success in the Israel-Iran war. While the exact nature of their missions remains classified, past revelations suggest that these women are more than spies. They're field operatives capable of surveillance, sabotage, and even kinetic strikes. Some of them reportedly seduced high-ranking enemy officials, infiltrated Iran's most sensitive installations, and coordinated targeting data for Israeli fighter jets. Barnea is said to have directed hundreds of operatives and local assets into action, running a complex network of Israeli spies, and recruited Iranian dissidents to dismantle key elements of the Ayatollah's war machine. The operation was so effective that Iran managed to mount a counterstrike only on the second day of the war. The report also reveals that Mossad now has precise intelligence on the location of Iran's enriched uranium stockpiles, information so sensitive that Israel could intervene again if Tehran attempts to weaponize its nuclear program. In a rare public nod to the contribution of women in Israeli intelligence, a senior Mossad officer known only as G, with Iranian roots and expertise in recruiting foreign spies, shared that with this paper. In 2024, she was honored with lighting a torch during the Israel's Independence Day ceremony, a symbolic recognition of her covert contributions. The latest operation signals a new era for Israel's legendary spy agency, one where female operatives are not only breaking barriers, but also shaping the course of regional history. So this is not like a negative thing. This is actually complimenting the female spy agents of Mossad and how effective they were with respect to Iran. So, but they definitely were honeypots. I mean, there's no other way you can look at those agents, right? In a responsive comment or quote post published that same day, September 14th, Elijah posted without caption a photograph of Miss Wilkins arm in arm with Kash Patel, which she originally shared on her Instagram account in January 2024. In the photo, Miss Wilkins and Patel are dressed up for a formal event, and Miss Wilkins is wearing a fitted red halter neck cocktail dress. There you go. Defendant's post of this photo received massive engagement with 1.5 million views and at least 38,000 likes, hundreds of comments, and thousands of reposts and bookmarks. So you can see that he got success from what he was trying to convey there. While defendant may not have included any caption to spell out the meaning of his post, he didn't have to. Okay. Now, so let's just pause what we have here so far. So now we have the statement. The statement is, which coming by implication is, you have this article by Hen Mazig, and Elijah is now reposting, publishing this to the world, this picture over this post. So we can pause for a second and just ask yourself, before he said anything, what can anyone glean from this he is trying to say? I mean, what could he possibly be trying to say by specifically finding this picture and attaching it to a repost of this? So I think it's rather disingenuous, and you look like a fool to try and claim that he's not trying to say, at the very least, it's his opinion that she is a Mossad agent. Or, okay, at the maybe if I'm his defense counsel, I would frame it. I'm going to try and play his lawyer for a second. So I'll admit as his attorney, as Elijah's attorney here, that what he's trying to say is that we should really raise questions as to whether or not she might be one of those honeypots similar to what they use in Iran, that's happening over here with Kash Patel. Now, if they're successful in convincing a jury of that, Elijah wins. Okay? If they're successful in convincing a jury that, Elijah wins, because he's basically, making a call to action. He's not making a statement as to what she is. He's saying, he's calling for investigation into whether or not she's, one of those people. By his own words that he says in his statement there, he kind of portrays it as like, hey, maybe we should have some questions about this. Now, between you and me, I think that his position is that of a jackass. I mean, it's a stupid statement considering that Israel's putting someone into effect in a year before January 2023. January 2020, like 2 years before the guy is even considered for anything. Come on, how stupid is that? That's ridiculous. I mean, it's the claim of an idiot. But that being said, I mean, if you spend any time looking at this, it's like, maybe not an idiot. You're either an idiot or you think that Israel is like 4,000 steps ahead of the rest of the world, which is either the highest compliment you can give to Mossad, that they're just so brilliant, and this is one of the things that whenever people are talking about Mossad, they're so brilliant and they're everywhere and they've got spies everywhere and they've got their hookups in the White House and in Mar-a-Lago and they've got spies sleeping with Kash Patel and who knows who else in the government there, and they're so brilliant and they can see through them. We're the ones who see through it. They're behind Tyler Robinson and they're the ones who killed Charlie Kirk and they're the ones but we see through it because the very stupid mistakes that they made. It's like, yeah, okay, you're very talented. You see through things. Or if you come from a perspective that everything that ever happened is because of Israel, so in that case, that's where you're going to come to. Israel planted Anthony Fauci in place in 1990 because they wanted him to unleash COVID on the world or something. I don't know. Thank God his name is Fauci, not Goldstein. Can you cover the 12-hour war and current sign counts? Maybe. I don't know. What's the current? I don't even know. I'm not even sure what the current sign count means. I'm not even sure what you're talking about. We all know Lady Logic is Messiah agent, has been working Compromise Joe for a long time. Otherwise, we can't explain it. It would explain a lot. It would explain a lot. That photo is very odd for one reason. I'll tell you what it is. Kash doesn't have bug eyes in it. He's got his eye. The eye is there. All right. But the point that I'm getting at is this. I think that Elijhah Schaffer is a jackass for trying to make this claim. I think it's a very silly claim for a myriad of reasons. And that no one who actually has a brain would actually think that this is a logical conclusion to reach. But he has every right to do that without being sued. You have a right to be a jackass. So, yeah. And there are things he brings to the table which are not stupid. Like I said, he's a smart guy. But I think that this is kind of ridiculous, and it doesn't mean that it's actionable by Wilkins. Doesn't mean Alexis has a viable claim here. Frankly, I didn't even think Alexis Wilkins was Jewish. I never would have guessed that. Maybe she is. Maybe she isn't. And they're saying that she's a Mossad spy anyway. Does anyone know? Is she Jewish? Yeah, I'm not going to sit here going into whole Chaim Solomon. And Chaim Solomon is a Jew who helped finance the American Revolutionary War for America. But I was never big in the whole, hey, here's a Jew who did something good. because I think it's a little, it's beneath me, and it's beneath Jews. So ever since Kash Patel was appointed as director, so what her claiming here is, while the defendant didn't include any captions spell out the meaning of his post, he didn't have to. Ever since Kash Patel was appointed as director of the FBI, she's trying to make clear here, or lawyers trying to make clear here, where the implication comes from. So ever since he was appointed director of the FBI in February 2025, the conspiratorial corners of the internet and social media have been spreading a false narrative that Miss Wilkins is an Israeli Mossad agent, spy, or honeypot whose only relationship with Kash Patel to spy on and manipulate the United States government. Now, the strongest claim, the strongest basis that I can come up with as to why someone would think she's a spy is because if you look at the two of them, I mean, she looks like she's in a completely different league from him, right? I think that's a fair assessment. She looks like she's someone you would expect her to be with someone. I mean, Kash Patel is brilliant, and the Epstein files notwithstanding, friggin' based. And he's awesome and a patriot, and he's a hero in my mind. But you wouldn't think that this is someone who, like, someone who looks like that would end up being drawn to. And yet she was, long before he was an FBI director, long before Trump was the nominee, the official nominee for the GOP party. So the strongest evidence is, like, we're basically saying, why would she be with someone who looks like Kash Patel? No offense, Kash, I know you're watching. So he probably would agree with me. So the falseness. So defendant's wordless reply to Ms. Mazzig's lengthy description of female Mossad agents who seduced high-ranking and enemy officials, juxtaposing a carefully chosen photograph of Ms. Wilkins in a sleeveless red dress embracing the director of the FBI, unmistakably accuses Ms. Wilkins of being a Mossad agent for Israel who has seduced Director Patel to compromise him, a honeypot. See, here the plaintiff is really getting a bit of a stretch, and this is where I think her case dies. This is where I think her case probably dies, because I don't think it's unmistakable in that it's accusing her of being a Mossad agent. It could be read that way. It's not an unreasonable reading, but I think you could also make a claim that he's, if you give him the benefit of the doubt, certainly, that he's like, hey, maybe we should look into her. The wordlessness is very helpful to him. The insidious insinuation understood by an ordinary viewer as evidence below is that Ms. Wilkins is a spy for a foreign government conducting espionage to undermine our national security and to manipulate federal law enforcement at the highest level and even committing treason. Yeah, that is pretty much what it's saying. If in fact, let me correct that. If in fact it's a statement that that's what she is, that is what the statement is. Now, again, it's not clear that that is what the statement is. They want the court to recognize this as a clear statement, and perhaps you could look at this as a question of fact. That's a jury question. It's very possibly a question of fact. These accusations are all categorically false, and the defendant knows it. The defendant knowing it is important, because defendant knowing that it's a false statement is how you get beyond New York Times v. Sullivan, where you have actual malice. Actual malice is that you knowingly lie about a public figure or show a reckless disregard for the truth. Defendant viewers interpret his post to be calling Ms. Wilkins a Mossad agent. In response, one ex-user stated, imagine her face when Mossad told her what her job was going to be. Another stated that Director Patel was offered a Mossad wifey. Defendant intended this defamatory implication. Defendant intended this defamatory implication. So now here they want to try and say this, that based on how his entire operation is based on clickbait material, that he's intending this implication. isn't trying to have people. He's trying to have people draw this conclusion. Defendant frequently posts anti-Israel rhetoric, accusing Israel of controlling the United States and its politicians. So now, remember I was talking before about how some things are maybe bolstering and not necessary? Why are they writing this whole thing about his post about Israel? Why not end the complaint here, right? Just end the complaint here on page 6. This is what he said. It's not true. It's false and defamatory. And he did it for clickbait, even though he knew it was false and defamatory. Boom. Give us our close out. Wherefore, hold us. Let us hold this, hold him accountable. This is the only, you just made your claim here. The only reasonable support you can have, conclusion, is that, this insidious insinuation that she's a spy who's looking to commit treason and that's defamatory. Boom. End the complaint right here. Why don't you end the complaint right here if you're her? What are you gaining now by going through his whole history? Now, Elijhah Schaffer tries to make a lot of hay in his video about the rest of this. I mean, he tried saying about the whole wordlessness, but okay. The wordlessness, she needs to overcome this point as to whether it's a statement. To me, she needs to overcome this issue as to, is it a statement or is he making a statement that she's a Mossad agent, or is he making the claim, or saying she should be investigated, or expressing his opinion? And to me, I can see this going either way. And perhaps that's why they put the rest of this complaint here. But when you put in here that his whole point is make clickbait, controversial type of statements, I can understand how they're trying to portray it as, hey, he's trying to just say the most outrageous things possible because that's what lines his pockets. That's how he makes his money. If he says the more outrageous, the more money he makes. So he doesn't care about the truth. He doesn't care about anything. All he cares about is making outrageous statements for the purposes of getting more clicks and making more money. That's what Alexis Wilkins will have you believe. And she may be true. It may be correct. On the other hand, his defense, she has the burden of proof on her. And, it could be sufficiently clickbaity for him to even be raising the question. He doesn't have to be making a statement. And the burden of proof is on her that it was a statement. And a statement of fact, not just a statement, not just an expression of his own opinion. Defendant frequently posts, but they should continue trying to show how, and I think the objective here from his lawyers, I'm trying to understand the discussions that his lawyers are probably having when they're drafting this complaint, is they want to make clear here that he makes his money from basically drumming up anti-Israel hate, and that Israel is under the control of the United States. So given that that's what his whole narrative is, that he's continually saying that America is under Israel's thumb, now he's basically that this is consistent with that America is under Israel's thumb. Now, Elijhah Schaffer tries to turn this into this whole thing being about suppressing his speech about Israel. And it could be, I don't want to rule that out, that's part of the objective here. And to the extent that is the objective, that's gross and disgusting and is inexcusable. Try and silence someone for engaging in their First Amendment rights. Because even those people who hate Israel have a 100% right to their free speech, and even to lie about the state of Israel, frankly. But that's just the way that's the way our founders wisely set up our constitutional rights. But so he wants to say he's being punished for what he said about Israel. And like I said, is that a possibility? Yeah, that is a possibility. But it's not a fig leaf veneer under which they're trying to bring up the whole Israel thing. Because the reason you would continue in this vein is to try and say, if you're his lawyers, you would say, hey, look, this is a guy who basically makes his living by bashing Israel and saying that America is under Israel's control and this sucks and I hate it. So him making this claim about Alexis Wilkins, to the extent that this post implies he made that claim, that's consistent with everything he's been saying for ages. So he said Trump doesn't want to admit that Netanyahu doesn't fear him. Israel has more control over USA than we do over them. Our politicians are hook, line, and sinker, sold out to the Jewish state regime. It's genuinely disheartening. We must remove these parasites from AIPAC. My entire feed is about people glazing Israel and defending the occupation of our nation. So now I guess we're under occupation. That's pretty bizarre. It's incredible. All happened after the forced TikTok sales on behalf of ADL. It's forced occupation. Like, such a clownish statement. You either get Israel control politicians who hate you or foreigners who hate you. Welcome to America. I hate it here. All right, so leave. I don't know what that means. I hate it here. I would never say I hate it here. I might hate things about America. I don't understand the notion of saying I hate it here. You can say I hate our state. Say I hate America. You can say I hate the way America is. I don't know. It's also kind of foolish to ignore how much money the Arab League throws in to anti-Israel rhetoric. It breaks my heart what Trump could have been if it wasn't a slave to Israel. Tragic. All right. Our politicians serve Israel. They hate us. Imagine telling our founding fathers that the future will be ruled by brown women who serve a foreign state. This is about, no, I haven't seen so many violent, unhinged anti-Israel posts like the ones that have flooded my feed in the last couple of weeks. I'm so pro-Israel that my friends in Jerusalem made my campaign t-shirt in Hebrew for me, and I wore it to the market in Tel Aviv. Okay. It does. This does say Katrina Pearson in Hebrew. Israel will kill more of us before they will let their power over the U.S. government and UN slip. Defendant also has disdain for Director Patel, recently referring to him as a traitor. Defendant knowingly or with reckless see, I don't understand. Oh, I guess it's trying to say, so again, why is he bringing this up? Let me see the footnote here. Oh, it's just a footnote to him saying that. I guess the point is that if you're her, you're basically saying she's successfully turned him. Or that Elijah is trying to claim that she successfully turned them on behalf of the Mossad. Defendant knowingly or with reckless disregard for the truth fabricated this accusation at the expense of Miss Wilkins, generating outrage to drive up his viewership and engagement, thereby resulting in a monetary gain and further notoriety. Minimally, defendant acted negligently in doing so. Cause of action 1, defamation. We're almost done here. Well, this is not that long a complaint, as I said. Grifty, member for 13 months. How you doing, brother? It's good to see you. If you take all her claims as true, I still don't see how calling someone a Mossad agent is defamatory. Isn't it the same as calling someone a Fed? Well, so you're asking the right questions here, Grifty. Is it derogatory? So in the context, so that's part of the problem that the plaintiff has here, isn't it? That you have to establish that it is a derogatory statement. Now, she tries weaving all of that together into saying not only that to the extent that, she's turning, they portray it as she's a Mossad agent she's an American citizen who's a Mossad agent and is committing treason by trying to turn Patel against America. But that's an even further reach to throw into what he posted. Now, it's not a crazy reach in the following sense. The article he's reposting is talking about how Mossad agents, how honeypots, successfully managed to turn Iranian officials against their government. So in that sense, anyone who reads the article and sees that picture there is basically picturing that she's doing the same thing to American officials. So it's not, and a claim of treason is certainly derogatory, obviously. So, but you actually have to read the article in order to actually see that, right? If you're just looking at this, you're just a fly-by-night guy, and you're following, and you see this thing that he posted. He's like, oh, here's Elijhah Schaffer posting a picture of Kash and a pretty girl. And then you read and you click on it and you look at it, and you see what's on the headline there. So you wouldn't read that as being treason, although you would look at her as, she's bad for American interests and that she's the conclusion you would reach, if you trust everything he says or opines about as being truthful, as being that he's the one who within the know, which I'm sure he has some fans who believe that. So in that case, he seems to the very least be expressing his opinion that she is a Mossad agent. And, as a Mossad agent, that Mossad planted her here to try and turn him against America. I think that no one would take that as a compliment. I think everyone would realize that, folks will look at her and dislike her for that. Right? I mean, you talk about derogatory. It's like people hear it, and if they believe it about you, that they think bad of you. So does that not... if it were... think about it this way. If you're trying to figure out if it was derogatory, just think about this for a moment, Grifty. And I think you're asking a great question. To try and assess whether something is derogatory, okay, ask yourself this. Let's say we learned that that statement was true, right? Pretend for a moment that his statement about her being a Mossad agent was actually true. And we verified that, oh my God, she really is a Mossad agent. How would you feel about her? Would you hate her? Would you think she's vile? Would you want to see her beheaded? Probably all of those, right? So in that sense, I think it's pretty derogatory. If it makes you dislike the person, it's pretty derogatory. Even if you don't want to, behead them. But if you're like, if basically a prophet came down and told you, oh yeah, she's totally a Mossad agent, I think you would probably despise her. I would despise her. I'd be like, what the hell is that? And I would want to see her beheaded. I'd want to see her hang. So that's what she's doing is treason. So I do think it's derogatory. It's different from calling someone a Fed. Someone Fed is working for our government as opposed to working against our government. So, especially because she's an American, you're basically saying she's an American working against her own government. I think it's pretty derogatory. Good question, though. Because if it's not derogatory, you're right. Elijah wins right there. She's suing Kal Serafin too. Maybe a pattern. I think that there's a bunch of people who are claiming that she's Mossad, and I think she's going after them. Yeah. I think she's trying to win the court of public opinion. And she's probably looking for money. She's Armenian and not Jewish, fled the genocide. Interesting. Thank you. I was like, Wilkins is much less a Jewish name than Schaffer is. Much less. Much, much less. I'm happy about that. I'm happy she's not Jewish. Funny she's a fan being accused being Jewish. She's a Christian, not many Jewish Christian country singers. That's true. That's true. I should have realized that. Seen a bunch of country band with fiddlers. LOL. Saying your DM Kyle posted earlier, lawsuits identical. Makes sense. Wouldn't be surprised. But we have dual citizen IDF vets in Congress. They've worn their uniforms on the floor, and Israel is our greatest ally. Treason is giving aid or comfort to the enemy. Seems like a stretch. It's when I'm talking about this, calling this treason, the reason that you would have Mossad there is to basically, harm American interests, right? Let me give you the horn. I'm unaware of dual citizen IDF vets in Congress. Is that true? That's interesting. They've worn their uniforms on the floor. Israel's our greatest ally. Yeah, but first and foremost, you can't ignore the time, the entire context of what's happening in the world right now. So it's an interesting, although you know your whole question about this being derogatory is interesting, because to the extent someone would consider it a compliment and others would consider it an insult, is that still considered derogatory? Which I think is at the heart of what your question is. I've never researched that. I think that's an interesting legal question. But I don't think anyone would consider this a compliment. I don't think that question. I think, wow, that's an interesting legal question. I do not see how that legal question is interesting here, because if in fact he's making a statement that she's an IDF, that she's a Mossad agent, and that were proven true, no one would take that as like, you're so good. Maybe the IDF would, but maybe that answers our question. He did not say she was a Mossad agent. Didn't even think he used her name. It's through implication, but very loose. I know. I shared the posts. He just put a picture up on an article talking about how Mossad embedded honeypots to help them defeat Iran. They had a dozen female honeypots who basically helped them defeat and gather intel and even engage in sabotage against Iran. I read through it earlier. So, and the point is, when he puts a picture there, there's definitely, it's tenuous there, and that's why I said the whole question is, what is he saying by putting that picture there? Is he saying that's what she is, or is he basically, as a statement of fact, is he expressing his opinion? Is he calling for investigation into whether or not she is a Mossad agent? You can also, by the same implication, you can get JD's wife up there and be like, "Oh, Mossad agent." I mean, I think it seems about as sensible. In making this post, defendant posted an actual, literally true photograph of Miss Wilkins and Director Patel. Oh, sorry. So Plaintiff incorporates reference on September 15th. Defendant defamed Ms. Wilkins, posting a carefully selected photograph of her in a fitted sleeveless red dress, arm in arm with Director Patel in response to a post about Mossad female operatives. In making this post, defendant posted an actual, literal, true photograph of Ms. Wilkins and Director Patel in response to a lengthy post about Mossad female operatives. The post reasonably implies that Ms. Wilkins herself is a Mossad agent manipulating and control of Director Patel. And that implication could be drawn. That's not a crazy implication to draw. In fact, I would venture to say that most people probably drew that implication. Whether they drew it as a statement of fact or a statement of opinion, that's an interesting question. And if it's a statement of opinion, in that case, Elijah wins. The implication is categorically false and is so obviously damaging to her reputation that the damages are presumed. Okay. Ms. Wilkins depends on her reputation as a patriotic American in her profession, both as a country music artist and working for PragerU. The implication imputes the commission of various crimes, including espionage and treason. So I think Grifty, this is true. It does imply that she's been engaging in crimes. As evidenced by defendant's postings about Israel controlling the United States, as well as his disdain for Director Patel, the defendant intended and endorsed this inference. Defendant has malice toward Ms. Wilkins because of her relationship with Director Patel. That's not the actual malice that we're talking about here. I hate when lawyers write a paragraph like this, because it's intending that he's motivated by hatred. And that's what actual malice is. That's got nothing to do in the world of law. When we talk about actual malice, the term actual malice, which those of you who are relatively new here, actual malice doesn't mean hatred when we're talking in the legal setting of a defamation lawsuit. Actual malice is a term of art that was created through New York Times v. Sullivan, where basically it became part of common law defamation, which says if the person spoken about is a public figure, you have to show actual malice with regard to the statement. But actual malice means you weren't just lying, you knew you were lying. Or you weren't just lying, but you showed a really reckless disregard for the truth. That's what actual malice means. So now when they're writing it over here, they're trying to say, they're using the term malice to imply hatred, which is kind of silly, but a lot of lawyers do it. Defendant publishes defamatory implication to over 1 million viewers knowing it was false with reckless disregard for the truth or best negligently. Which if it's negligently, I don't know that that's enough. I think it has to be reckless disregard for the truth. I haven't researched this. I'll assume that that's not going to be, they didn't put that in and shoot themselves in the foot with that whole negligently throw in there. There's absolutely no reason outside defense desire to stir up controversy and generate income for himself to accuse Miss Wilkins, an American-born country singer, of being a foreign agent engaged in espionage. Defendant entirely fabricated this story to generate engagement revenue for himself and his company and to indulge in his obvious animus against Director Patel and against Miss Wilkins for being in a relationship with Director Patel. At no point has defendant reached out to Miss Wilkins. She's publicly stated prior to defendant's statements that all the allegations regarding her affiliation with Israel are false. So this is how he should have known it was not true. Minimally, defendant has acted negligently. However, his obvious animus combined with the inherent ludicrous nature of his implication are ample evidence that he acted with actual malice. Oh, that's why they're doing it. They're saying his hatred plus negligence forms a different type of actual malice. Interesting. Okay. All right, that makes sense to me. Now I get it. Saying since you were negligent and your negligence was motivated by your actual hatred, that should equate to actual malice in the legal world. I haven't researched that, but that actually is logical. Considering the context of defendant's various ex-posts about Israel, a reasonable person would understand that defendant's statements are not mere hyperbole. Now they're trying to address the problem that I think is going to hang them, which is that it could be just an opinion or exaggeration that no one's going to take seriously. The Rachel Maddow defense. So, considering the context of his posts, that's how a reasonable person would take it. That he's not just exaggerating. And his viewers did, in fact, take him seriously, as evidenced by the replies to the defendant's posts. The defamatory implication has directly and proximately caused Ms. Wilkins to suffer significant damages, including damage to her reputation, humiliation, embarrassment, the nature of which is ongoing and long-lasting. These damages were foreseeable and intended by defendant. I don't know if the damage was based on your claims so far. It's not the fact that she's harmed that he's looking for necessarily, but to enrich himself. So your complaint sort of seems to be walking itself back with this paragraph, right? I mean, think about what she's saying here. She's like, he's looking to cause damages towards her. I mean, they did say that he's motivated by hate. So I guess if you hate someone, you want to cause damages to them. So he's looking for both, to enrich himself and to harm her. Defendant published the defamatory statements knowingly, intentionally, willfully, wantonly, maliciously with intent to harm Ms. Wilkins and thereby entitling Ms. Wilkins to an award of punitive damages. Now we want to get punitive damages. Well, this makes sense because it's hard to establish actual damages. It's very, very tough to establish damages. You have to show that someone canceled on you because of this defamation. Now she wants to get punitive damages because he was wanton and malicious. As a direct and proximate result of the misconduct defendant, Ms. Wilkins is entitled to compensatory special and punitive damages in the sum of $5 million, such great amount is determined by a jury. Pray for relief, and it's signed off on by Jason Greaves, Jared J. Roberts from the Banal Law Group. All right. Okay. All right. So that there is the complaint. I do think you saw here at near the very end, I told you in paragraph 28, this is where they're trying to address this could be taken as opinion or exaggeration. No one's taking it seriously that she's actually a Mossad agent. And someone could have taken it as a joke, by the way. I didn't really bring that up, but I think that's an important point as well. That they could have said that he was making a joke. And as a joke, it could be funny. So if he means it as a joke, which he very well could have, for all of these reasons, if you ask me, I don't think she's going to win. And it could get dismissed. I don't think she's going to win. And it could get dismissed. Because it really could have been a joke. The lack of words really helps him a lot. It really helps him a lot. If he attached that, if he just written the words, she's found another victim. Even then, you could even try and say that that's a joke. But Plaintiff's got a tough case here. I think Elijah's probably going to win this one. Just found out the mother of best friend growing up has passed. 95. Spent a lot of time in her house. Spark dynamics. Blessed be the true judge. Sorry about that. Show that post an article to the public without giving her name. How would the common man know who she is just by a photo? Well, the point is she's a public figure, right? I mean, Elijah's going to say she's a public figure. So that cuts both ways. Elijah wants her to be recognized as a public figure so that she has to prove actual malice. So, and it's very easy to figure out who she is. If you think the FBI had anything to do with the strike on Iran, you're retarded. It's all nonsense, frivolous BS, and a total waste of time. Well, if it doesn't matter if Wilkins wins, Schaffer is a Jew hater trying to divide the right. F him. Let the process be the punishment. No time for softball. I think a lot of people probably feel that way. Century DM guest Elijah producer is also responding and commenting on lawsuit video. Maybe they will amend to include the company as well. Send me a DM. Oh, dang it. I didn't mean to do that.
Foolish lawsuits against the press for an ungodly.
What was I up to? I think I was around here. I wanted to finish this up.
As an anti-Semite. Now, why would they do that? Well, there's only two reasons. Either A, they're trying to make the court think I'm a bad person. So that
yeah, I don't think. Okay, he doesn't think that would make him a bad person. They want he's hoping that they think the court will look down on him for being an anti-Semite. That's possibly true.
They'll rule in her favor by smearing me and slandering me with unrelated facts, or B, that's what this lawsuit is about. And I believe the latter. They're both.
Oh, so the latter because you hate Jews.
Both true, but the latter. This lawsuit is about silencing critics of Israel.
You see, he vacillates back and forth before anti-Semite and critics of Israel, which to me, it's almost like you're giving away that you don't even remember the distinction anymore between hating Israel and hating Jews.
Now, this kind of stuff happens in Australia where they don't have God-given rights. It happens in the UK. But the fact is, well, she might argue, hey, she's a public figure. She's not a government official. But if she's using the director's law firm, this is very serious. This is a proxy lawsuit to bully me, the American people.
I don't see how this is bullying you. I mean, I don't see how it's a proxy lawsuit. She should ditch? She shouldn't use Kash's thing? I don't understand that.
A small independent media company into not being able to comment on our elected and appointed government officials, their affairs, and their public life.
See, this is now, let me try and beat the drum and try and say that this is an attack on America and free speech. When frankly, I think both of them are engaging in a little bit of hyperbolic crap. Meaning, I don't think you can say he's making a statement about her. I don't think her complaint is saying that. And he's saying this hyperbolic crap that this Kash Patel and the government is trying to bully me. Woe is me. Oh, woe is me. Come on, Elijah. I mean, I understand why he's doing it, but to me, that's the grift. That's the grift coming out. That's the grift coming out. woe is me, I'm a victim, I'm just trying to be American and stand up for American. It's like, why is this any more complicated than she's angry at you for lying about her and making her look like she's some sort of freaking traitor? It's really, so just because it's his firm?
We are taking this on full force. My company will not be intimidated by government officials, their proxies, or Trump's inner circle.
Trump's inner, like their proxies. Like, so you think she wasn't offended by this? You think she's not angry? You think she's like, oh, she's totally cool with it? Like, this is where it's like, let me try to impute that this is on the government so I look like that much more of a victim.
We did not take money from Miriam Adelson, and here at the Rift TV, going to rifttv.com, we are asking you guys to support us in this legal fight because, again, we have been implicated on nothing. We have been accused of nothing. We have been told that we said...
If you're accused of nothing, then you wouldn't be worried about this lawsuit. I think you will win. I think you should win. But let's not make it as if you weren't trying to draw that implication. Like as if you didn't want your viewers to get the very implication when you pretty much admitted just that. You pretty much admitted, hey, I think it's really interesting that, you know, we have a guy who's single and he's dating someone, and we should look into this. I don't even understand what her connection is to Israel at all. Why would I don't even, the more I'm thinking about this, why is she an Israel agent, a Mossad agent, not a Russian agent? Like, I don't even understand this anymore. I don't understand this. This is where it's like to me, Elijah exposes his IDS, his Israel derangement syndrome. Like, even if you assume that, hey, she's way too hot for Kash Patel. So she was sent out here to start dating him a year and a half before, 2 years before the guy gets appointed to anything, when there was no aspirations that anyone thought that he's going to become director of the FBI. And she basically is dating him for years and years under the hope that she'll be able to someday have influence over someone who's a senior member of Trump's inner circle. And that obviously has to be Mossad, not KGB, not anyone else, not China. No, she's got no. I can't even figure out what her tie is. She's not even Jewish. What's her tie to Mossad? But if you have Israel derangement syndrome, then oh my God, Mossad's everywhere. They're everywhere. Oh my God. And we know, based on how he intermingles the two, that his hatred of your hatred of Israel and your fear of Mossad, you have a very difficult time distinguishing that from Jews.
Nothing wrong. We have never been accused of lying. And by any fact, there's nothing in this lawsuit that states that we did anything criminal, libel, or defamatory. All it states, and you can see the documents there at the Gray Zone article linked here, all it states is that we are critical of Israel, and therefore we are endangering her reputation and her husband's or her boyfriend, whatever they are. We don't know what they are.
That's not what it says at all. It says you put up this thing here, and given your context, that's the only conclusion your viewers would draw from it.
And that is enough to ruin your life.
Now, I think they're wrong, because I think that they could take it as a statement of opinion. So I think they're wrong. I think you win on that. And but that this is like some government plot to silence critics of Israel. I don't understand how. Walk me through it. How is this an Israel thing rather than her being, I don't know, a Chinese agent? But a Chinese agent only hired Chinese people? Is that what you think? That's what the crackpots at Conspiracy Inc. think. It's like, oh well, look, she's brown. She must be Israeli. Look at how dark her skin is. She must be Israeli. I don't get it.
Do you want to live in a country like that? Well, we're striking back legally. We've attained one of the biggest legal teams in the state of Florida in the circuit court, who has graciously taken us on. We will be taking legal donations. There is a legal fund below to take on the federal government, which we believe is doing this by proxy.
I don't know where that comes from.
We are filing to dismiss this and pursue further legal discovery. We would like to obtain communications between Kash Patel and his girlfriend to find out if he knew about these lawsuits, to find out if she ever informed him, and to go under discovery and under deposition to find out exactly what went on. Now, she's not just asking for a legal lawsuit. She's asking me to go before a jury. That's very important. In a district that's very unfriendly with people who think like me.
Is it? Is it?
Calculated? Of course it is.
She took it to your jurisdiction. It's not like she picked some random jurisdiction. She took it to your hometown. Calculated. Calculated. This is. I'm sure she's not upset about the jurisdiction. Although, frankly, wouldn't she be happier doing it in D.C., where you're probably very unpopular? That's ridiculous. I'm sure you're less popular in Washington, D.C. I'm sure she could have found a lot of. She could have taken to New York, found some way to get it there. I'm sure you're a lot less popular in New York. So I don't know. To me, this is pure grift at this point.
Now, what does this mean for the American people? If you can be sued by Trump's inner circle.
Again, this is the part where he's engaging in hyperbole and just like, this is like a massive. This is more of a stretch than her stretch. I think what she did here is a bit of a stretch, but I think that what he's doing here is much bigger stretch. Trump's inner circle is coming after him. Oh, woe is me.
Into financial bankruptcy.
You see, this is like something I would expect like Rachel Maddow to be saying.
For protected speech, I would like to say that this lawsuit, if at all even entertained and not dismissed, is an all-out retaliation over free speech in this country, based solely on the predication that I am critical of Israeli influence in our country. I believe these people have overstepped their boundaries as citizens of this country.
Who are these people? Citizens of this country. What the heck are you talking about? What the hell are you even saying now? Who are these people? She's not even Jewish. What the hell are you talking about?
They've overstepped their legal boundaries as plaintiffs in a lawsuit.
I don't even know what do you mean by those people? What are you talking about? This is so like this is preaching to the lowest common denominator. This is preaching to the idiots.
And I also believe they have overstepped their boundaries as American representatives and those in such high positions as being romantic partners and directors of the FBI.
What? She's not a representative of anyone. Look, I get you're upset here. This just seems like he's looking for someone to start singing "Glory, Glory" behind him.
This is a full-on assault on our First Amendment. And now you might be asking, why me? Why Elijhah Schaffer? Well, I'm big enough that they can send a message. You will see this video. But I don't have the bank account of Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, or Candace Owens. I'm just a little guy like you guys trying to make a little bit of a difference, what I can, for my two beautiful.
You said your IP is worth $5 million. I don't think that's like most people.
Sons, my lovely wife, and the rest of my supporters who care about the truth. Now, all the mentions about my criticisms of the Israeli government in the lawsuit, it's completely irrelevant here. And we still want to know in discovery why they decided to include that as the entirety of the document. It's all about Israel.
It's not all about Israel. Israel is designed. I walked my audience. I walked you all through why the Israel part's in there. The Israel part's in there so that people will understand and draw the conclusions to establish that he's a clickbait artist who basically engages in rage baiting against Israel, and that he believes that Israel is controlling America, which is consistent with what the conclusions that he wants them to believe, that the FBI is under control of Israel because she's a spy. So that's not like anything weird to throw in there.
And they're mentally probably trying to silence anyone who's critical of their regime. Not only would I like to say I will not be retracting any of my criticisms of Israeli occupation of the United States government, but
Israeli. You see, when he says that, he's so hurting himself here. Because now he's saying that Israel is how is Israel occupying the American government? Oh my God.
will continue to criticize our politicians, Kash Patel, and all others who are
See, is he saying that anyone who's Jewish is part of Israel? Is that what he's trying to say? This is where he starts waffling back and forth between referring to Jews and referring to Israel. In what way is Israel
seeking to undermine our ability to speak freely in this country? Look, you may love Israel and you may hate Israel, and that's irrelevant to me. You may be a Democrat, you may be a Republican. That's important here. If we are not allowed to criticize people, and by the way, I didn't even do that. If we're not even allowed to just openly speak, then we are headed down the path of the United Kingdom. We're just retweeting someone or resharing a post. They're mad about the contents of a post underneath my picture.
So you're saying they, when for all intents and purposes, Kimmy could be correct here. It's just her. She's pissed off at the ridiculous harassment. And then now he's grifting for money. And the smart thing would be just to apologize. But apologizing doesn't work for his grift. So he's not going to do that here and now. The lawsuit is the Streisand effect in practice? Could be. People now hear of Elijah? Could be. I don't think she cares about Israel. So as far as that, I don't think she cares. Why would she care? There's a lot of Mideastern oil money in Jew hating. A lot. Yep.
Don't mention her either. They're mad about what he said. And that's not what I said. So now I can be in trouble for
I don't think they're mad at what he said.
something someone else said online.
That's pretty. This is just getting stupider and stupider. No, it's that you put her face to that story. There's nothing offensive in that story. The story, if anything, is complimentary of the effectiveness of the Mossad.
We really want this as a nation? Suing over a photo with no caption is lawfare meant to intimidate me. But bad news for you guys. The American people don't just go away. We don't just let people like Kash Patels in this country step on us. My family was here before the revolution. We are heritage Americans, Mr. Patel. With all due respect to your position, your girlfriend is embarrassing the administration, and we're not going to let this slide. This is a bipartisan concern that we all hold together, saying, hey, whether you came last week or you came hundreds of years ago with your family, we are all here in this present moment together, and we're not going to allow this type of slap violation that we believe get in the way like they did to Trump during the Russiagate. I don't know who you're going after. I don't know if I'm the intended target, but you're trying to make me be collateral, and I'm not going to take it. You wanted a fight? You got one, Kash. God bless you and your girlfriend. I want to say, may God protect you and protect you against smears that you've sought to do against me, as you thought to ruin my reputation, damage my credibility. And
you were definitely trying to imply a smear. You even said as much halfway through this video. Again, I don't think that what you did is. I don't think you broke the law. I don't think you should be held liable, based on what I've seen so far. I don't think you should, Elijah. But you're sitting here like playing a victim in the sense of like that you weren't even trying to do anything here, and it's just this is
bankrupt me.
I don't think you should be bankrupted, and I do think you should be free to speak 100%.
Americans do not take government bullying like this lightly, and neither do I. We aren't ones to back down from government intimidation or overreach. I'll see you guys in court.
All right, so a bit wordy. Team F Squid. Whether or not Elijah is correct on all his assumptions and allegations regarding Israel is factual that Israel has influence on the government, and of course they do. We are their golden goose. Goose or bad, good or bad is subjective. I think they definitely have influence. I think that, I think a lot of nations have influence. I don't know how I gauge how much influence they have. But I don't think I think he's sort of trying to say that if you're a Jewish politician, that's a reflection of their influence, which I don't understand that at all, any more than if you're an Irish politician, that's a reflection of Ireland's influence. And I understand people say AIPAC and Jewish money going to AIPAC or whatever. I understand that. But like Dick Park pointed out, There's a lot of Middle Eastern oil money in Jew hating. So, to be clear, I don't believe Israel's influence in American politics is nefarious in nature, just pointing out it does exist. I didn't take offense by it. And if you, and you know, and I think what you say makes sense. I'm sure they do have some influence. I'm sure they do. We wouldn't be giving them $3 billion a year, right? We wouldn't have been doing that if they weren't having some sort of influence. I think that that's true. You know, some people will say it's a good thing that we're doing to help support them. My position is I think Israel would be much better off if they didn't. If they didn't take that money, they'd be much better off if we told them that supply is dry. But yeah, I think that's pretty much an indisputable fact. I agree with you on that. I agree on that. Just checking, make sure I haven't missed anything. All right, I think that's it. I think that covers it. I think I covered everything I needed to say. All right. Thank God this stream actually held up. I'm very, very relieved about my audio. Maybe I fix the audio for tomorrow with what's his face. We'll see. That'll be exciting to see. All right. I thank you all for joining me. God willing, I hope to be back tomorrow evening at 10 p.m. I want to get back into an earlier schedule. I don't like this late night stuff. So I'm going to try to get into an earlier schedule and see what we can do to try and move it up for you guys. If you want to support me and you know, in any potential lawsuits that Kash Patel's girlfriend may drop against me, I'd appreciate it. And I will tell you that you should definitely not be eating lab meat, whether or not you're supporting me. Don't try to save money with lab meat. It's not worth it. It's not meant for you. It's for they, them. And whoa, what's this? One more? I got two more. Squid, don't you have some other game to play? I don't know what that means. Oh, Squid. I see what you did. That's funny. Johnny, for my generation, the complaint I share is that BB championed a lot of the U.S. government lies that led to regime change, wars, and all the fallout effects of that. Oh, okay. So you're saying that because he had problems with various countries in the Middle East, he motivated America to go in and attack. And then he basically lied to the American governments to try and get them to go in there. And if that's true, I can understand. I can understand why. They'd be ticked off. All right. And I think there's a fair chance that that's actually accurate. Well, I thank you all for joining me. Oh, Brian, God bless you. I'm gonna close out with this. Welcome you new 10 members to the following. God bless you. Who did you bring in? Who'd you bring in? Let me do this real quick. Members of the following. God bless you. Who did you bring in? Who'd you bring in? Following 10 people brought into the following courtesy of Brian Oldenkamp. God bless you, brother. That would include Vincent Rob Allen Jr., Matthew Felty, CJR902, Vince Olshove, Chekhov's Antlers, Sadie, Michael Ravel, C. Souter, Glitched Elite. If I called your name, it would be courteous of you to express your gratitude to Brian Oldenkamp for the very generous gift he gave you, the gift of life, the gift of greater personal improvement through community, unity, learning, and thinking. And the most important thing, especially for you 10 new people, to remember this. And seriously, all jokes aside, okay? I mean this seriously. Do not eat the bugs. Have a good night and Godspeed.